Hey YouTube, coming at you with something a little different in this video. Usually I do like top teams for Ultra League, but it's a lot of just like legendary XL Pokemon, and Ultra League is very tough to get into if you do not have those Pokemon. So what I did here is I pulled the top 20 Pokemon that are not legendary and non-XL. So we're gonna go over these on the list, sort of why they're ranked the way they are. And then I've got some teams with some of these Pokemon, not all these Pokemon, but some of these Pokemon, and some of them used twice just because, again, it's very, very tough to do non-XL, non-legendary teams. I try my best. So stay tuned for those. But basically, I'm gonna get these into like a few categories. The first is just community day Pokemon. Whenever you have a community day Pokemon, not all the time, but the majority of the time, it jumps up substantially. So Swampert on this list twice, Walrein twice, Greninja, Charizard on twice. Oops, I forgot to take off Genesect. Sorry, I see Genesect there. I forgot to take off Mythical, and then Samurott down there. So I guess Machamp too with Payback, because Payback is much more helpful in this league. So whenever you get a sort of community Pokemon, they always jump up. Obviously, Hydro Cannon, one of the best in the game. Powder Snow Icicle Spear is such a great addition for Walrein. Again, Hydro Cannon. Anytime you get Hydro Cannon or Blast Burn with Charizard, right? Just anytime you get those moves, it's your jump up a lot. So that's why they're ranked so high. And then there's sort of Pokemon that get buffs. So Gliscor, again, Gliscor didn't get buffed this season, but the Wing Attack did get buffed a few seasons ago. And having I think one of the best flyers in this game is this ground flying, because you neutralize a lot of your sort of weaknesses that a traditional flyer gets. Plus, the traditional flyer usually does not have a move for steals and always has problems against steals, but not when you have Earthquake. So that's why it's on this list twice. And Golisopod this season got the X Scissor buff. So X Scissor is now a little more energy to get, but it hits way harder. So that is why that jumped up substantially. So that's why you're seeing those on here. I'm seeing if anything else just got a buff this season. No. And then I'm going to go with what are essentially staples of the Ultra League beyond this season. So Shadow Dragonite, I've used Shadow Dragonite multiple times, and outside of Giratina Origin, it is the best dragon in this meta by far. Hard hitting with Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw, with Stab, plus the superpower. Once that got superpower, that was like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 seasons ago now. Once it got superpower, it became so much better, because before you would have to run Hurricane on it, and then you're just kind of walled by steals. But now it's just like you have that answer, and superpower hurts quite a lot in those situations. So Dragonite has always been super strong. Shadow Machamp's on here twice, but Shadow Machamp is way better. Machamp's just always so strong. You can run Rock Slide. You don't need Payback. Payback is on here because there's so many Giratinas and Jellicents and a lot of stuff of the top Pokemon that Payback is better. Cresselia, right? All these Pokemon are top ranked, so Payback against the top ranked is better. But there's a lot of Flyers and Charizard and stuff like that, and that you can hit super effective with Rock Slide. So you don't need Payback. It is better in this meta, but still okay. Sneasler is an interesting one. I don't see Sneasler a ton. If you're using a Shadow Claw user, you're normally using, at this point, Golisopod or Trevenant as that. But it's got the Shadow Claw Aerial Ace in close combat, so it's kind of a unique moveset. I haven't seen it a ton, quite honestly. I think it's a little overrated. And I think it's a little overrated because I think a lot of time it's kind of like baiting. Again, Aerial Ace got a buff, but it's like baiting Aerial Ace landing in the close combat, because there's a lot of things that kind of resist close combat in this meta. So being a little limited there, that's kind of like, it has the potential to be good, but just know it's very matchup dependent. I'll skip Genesect. Como is one of the other best dragons in this meta. Again, you get Stab on it, so same type attack bonus if you don't know what Stab is. So Dragon Tail, Dragon Claw, just a nice hard-hitting combo to start with, and then much like Dragonite, close combat, a coverage move for your dragon. So super strong there. And one of the best fairies in this meta, that again, not Excel, is Florges. Again, I would probably, if you had them, Galarian Weezing would be my top choice. A9tails would be a top choice. Slurpuff would be a top choice. If you don't want to use Excels, Florges is your choice. Fairy Wind, Disarming Voice, and Moonblast. Again, there's a lot of stuff that is weak to Fairy in this meta, so it has a lot of play. And then Obstagoon. Obstagoon is one of the best sort of underrated Pokemon, being, again, weak to fighting, which there is a lot of Cobalion and Verizing and stuff like that, but it's got some decent bulk. You actually can get it to XL. It says non-XL here, but you can, it does go up to like level like 41 with XLs. It doesn't need to be. You can go a little higher attack to make it non-XL. But just like has its own counter, again, non-stab, but also has that sort of Night Slash. So it plays more as a dark than it does a fighter, but very, very, very quick on that. Plus there's a lot of stuff in here with Shadow Claw. Just a lot of ghosts that you see on the top, like Giratina, Jellicent I mentioned. Trevenant not so much anymore because it got nerfed, but there's a lot of that stuff. Plus there's a lot of stuff weak to counter here. The ice and the steels and stuff like that. So it's a nice Pokemon to use. So I tried to put some teams together, and I should have tried to do more on this list. I did double some up, but let's start with an all community day Pokemon team. This core essentially covers every one of your weaknesses, right? Swampert's going to deal with the steels and rocks. Walreign's going to deal with your flyers and dragons, and Charizard's going to deal with pretty much everything else that's not water, essentially. Charizard just one of the best in this meta. Blast Burn is such a hard-hitting move. Dragon Claw for your dragons. So basically, this is the team. I put it in this order because I put Walrein is a pretty good safe swap. Like Charizard, not that Charizard can get hard punch, because even in the bad matchups like Tapu Fini stuff, you'd be surprised how much that Blast Burn hurts. But I use Walrein because Walrein is generally bulky enough and spammy enough as a safe swap to deal with that. So again, community Pokemon, get the increase there as community Pokemon, and then all these three are super strong in their own way. So you can mix and match other community Pokemon, but I think if you're looking for like the three strongest community Pokemon, it is those three in my opinion. I then started with Aurorus, because Aurorus is sort of, I mentioned there's like A Ninetales, Walrein, Aurorus, all slightly different in their how they play, but all sort of like the main ice types. Because you're ice and rock, you have a double weakness to fighting, which really makes it tough for you here, because there's a lot of fighters in the top, right? Because look at all your losses, like Registeel, Focus Blast, Cobalion, Cresselia, you're just gonna get out bulked. Virizion as a fighter, right? Tapu Fini as a water because they're rock weakness. So a lot of weaknesses there. So you got to try and cover all those. And Escav's going to be on this list twice because Escav was one of the best go-to Ultra League Pokemon for a very, very, very long time. That steel typing came in huge with a bunch of resistances, and it was a nice counter user with that resistance there. So it was very, very strong for a long time, but again, eventually it got out because there's just a lot of stuff that it just outbulked it. But if you look down the list there, that's a lot of X's, which means you win a lot of matchups as Escav, which is why I have it on two teams. And then if you're going to be weak to water, and you're going to be weak to fighting, Venusaur with Frenzy Plant as a poison grass is the way you balance there. The problem with this is there's no real safe swap. Like each one of these Pokemon can be pretty hard countered, and that's sort of where I see the weakness when it comes to like Ultra League Pokemon safe swaps that are not Legendary or XL. There's a lot of Legendary and XL Pokemon that can act as safe swaps. Everything from Double XL, Registeel, Cobalion to a certain extent. A lot of these, like, you can come Aurorus, but you're going to get lit up by counters. You can come Escav, but you're going to get lit up by primarily like flyers. You can come Venusaur, but you'll get lit up by like Giratina, Altered, where you have nothing to throw at it. So that is where it gets a little tricky in terms of safe swapping these non-XL, non-legendary Pokemon. Team 3, speaking about old school favorite, Empoleon, it's so crazy to see how many losses there are now, because at one time, Empoleon, talk about staple in early seasons, Empoleon was on like 75% of teams because it had the steel typing with the Hydro Cannon and Drill Peck for the grass, so it had great coverage. As you're going to see now, it's just like out-bulked by the majority of these Pokemon, and Swampert is always better because Swampert has Mud Shot as opposed to Waterfall. So Empoleon is a nice option. Gliscor, Again, Gligar is so good in Great League. Gliscor is your Ultra League option. Plays the same way as Gliscor, essentially, as Gligar, right? Wing attack. I think it has Night Slash, though, instead of Aerial Ace, and Earthquake as the ground nuke. So, again, flying ground is a great combo in this meta. And then to cover sort of fighting weakness, and Gliscor is going to have problems with like some water and stuff like that. Chestnut. So another community Pokemon that if you look at my substitutes, I went over like, if you don't have this legendary Pokemon, you don't have this XL Pokemon, who do you use? And Chestnut is a direct substitute essentially for Virizion. So it plays a similar role. Doesn't have like the fast move of like a double kick, but it does have a frenzy plant and a superpower. So it does essentially play that same sort of role in what it will beat. I have a couple more here, and did I do Dragonite already? Did I do this team? What did I do in number 2? Sorry, 1 second. Or was it number 1 or 3? Maybe I haven't done this. No, I just talked about, sorry. I just talked about Dragonite being the, why I'm like, didn't I just do Dragonite? I just did Dragonite talking about how it's the best second best dragon in this meta. And a lot on my try hard grinding teams, I think Dragonite is one of the best. Even against like, your biggest weakness is like you're weak to ice, but you have superpower. So like if you get like an energy advantage or shield advantage, you're gonna be like, you won't, depending on like shields and how bulky they are, you can still land a superpower there. Plus like there's so many Pokemon that are like counter users, which you resist as a flyer there. Again, I used Escav and Swampert just to cover the main weaknesses of ice for Escav, and then not have like Tapu Fini's a bit of an issue for like this whole team, but you can kind of work around it. So again, this team isn't amazing. I probably wouldn't use this team directly, but if you don't have a lot of Pokemon, these three are not just the worst thing to throw together. And the last one is Golisopod, because Golisopod, since getting buffed, you're gonna see it doesn't have a lot of like pure wins. You're not using it as a pure win. I would actually move Florges or Surfetch'd on the lead and use Golisopod. I can see, sorry, I see my mirror, my video buffering here. I would use Surfetch'd or Florges in the lead. Golisopod is a safe swap, and then the other one in the back. So it basically covers each other's weakness, right? Florges is going to have problems with steals. Surfetch'd as a counter user is going to deal with that. And then Golisopod just as a safe swap. Now you do have double weakness with flying here, right? Golisopod is bug and you're a fighter, so you have double weakness to flying, but Florges can do with most of them outside of Charizard. So you might want to run like a nuke on Surfetch'd, like a Brave Bird or something to cover that weakness. But Surfetch'd is essentially a glass cannon and very, very quick charging too with the counter. So those are some team ideas for non-legendary, non-XL Pokemon. If we just go back to this list here, if I had to give you sort of my top 10, I shouldn't do top 10 because actually when I take off all the doubles here, there is essentially a top 10. If I had to give you my top 5 non-legendary Pokemon, non-XL Pokemon, Swampert in this current meta, Swampert, Golisopod, Dragonite, Charizard, Greninja is essentially my top 5. And if I had to rank a top 3, it would be Swampert, Dragonite, and Charizard are my top 3 non-legendary, non-XL Pokemon. I just think they all have a great amount of coverage, great shield pressure and fast move damage pressure from Dragonite, and then just like coverage with all their movesets. So that would be my suggestion. Could you put all 3 together? Theoretically, yes. You would have a double rock weakness with Charizard and Dragonite. You neutralize your electric weakness because you're a dragon there, so you're only single weak to that. Waters like Tapu Fini would be a problem with that if you ran Charizard, Dragonite. So between Tapu Fini and double like rock weakness, I think you'll probably have some issues running that team. But again, if you only have limited Pokemon, and those are some of them, you can work around with those 3. Anyways, that is it. Go Battle Day tomorrow. and Sunday. Good luck with your battles. I'll have lots of videos coming because I've already have some in advance here between Great League and Ultra League that I've done in the past few weeks. So I've got some of those videos already. Plus I will have a bunch more teams to test out on the weekend. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend. See you guys in the next one.